1, 2. It's Eli Roush. I don't know about you. We coming at you live and coming at you soon. It's the LuckyDog podcast. What you doing, everybody? We in the club. We in the club. I'm just kidding. We're not. All right. Well, I was gonna go in the studio today, but long story short, we're out of internet or don't have power or something's going on in the studio, so ended up just recording at the house, so that's why I sound a little bit different. Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. This is your host Elias Roush. This podcast is sponsored by EliasRoushMedia.com. Photo, video, digital media production. Links in the description. So I hope everyone has been doing excellent, been doing productive work, or just relaxing and or just enjoying themselves. It's been a minute since I've been on the podcast. I normally like to stick to my weekly schedule of about one podcast a week. This last 2 to 3 months have been extremely difficult getting that weekly podcast out. So kind of doing some catch-up work right now. Had been in the transitioning of moving and whatnot into a new place, and then the internet at the new place wasn't working, so I was only able to record at the studio, and then real life was coming in and encroaching, so much stuff was happening all on top of that. But anyways, y'all didn't come here to listen to me complain about how hard it is to get a podcast out. Y'all came here to listen to a Wakanda Forever Black Panther movie review. The highly anticipated Wakanda Forever, might I say. I gotta say right off the bat, I've been anticipating Wakanda Forever, lightly anticipating Wakanda Forever over the past couple 2 to 3 years now. So yes, did a little time jump right there, went got a little quick Wikipedia check on everything that we're talking about. Didn't want to just randomly blurt out dates and stuff like that. So let me go through the background details, and I kind of can fill in some of my opinions of my anticipation for this movie. So Black Panther Wakanda Forever is a 2022 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics character Black Panther. Produced by Marvel Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, it is the sequel to Black Panther 2018. There we go. It's 4 years. And the 30th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Directed by Ryan Coogler, who co-wrote the screenplay with Joe Robert Cole. The film stars Letitia Wright as Shuri, alongside Lupita Nyong'o, Denai Guerrera, Winston Duke, Florence Kashumba, Dominique Thorne, Michaela Cole, Tanok Hartad, Martin Freeman, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Angela Bassett in the film. The leaders of Wakanda fight to protect their nation in the wake of King T'Challa's death. So, there is some spoilers immediately in the Wikipedia synopsis here, so I'm trying to dance around those for people that haven't watched any of the actual the marketing of it or don't know anything about any of the minute details kind of going into it, and kind of want to stay spoiler free. So I'm going to try to dance around those details as much as possible. So forgive me if I let one slip or anything like that, but I'm going to do my best. So yeah, what do we have? Cinematography, Autumn Durand Akapal. I have not heard of that cinematographer before. Let's see what they've done before. Filmography, most recently was the Loki series, and looks like some Beastie Boys. Worked with Spike Jonze. Yeah, this is not a cinematographer I've heard of before, but we also are bringing back, I think we're bringing back the same Ludwig Göransson. Didn't he do the first Black Panther as well, and a whole bunch of The Mandalorian and Creed 2? Yeah, he's done a lot of work with and Fruitvale Station. He's really close with Ryan Coogler, I believe. working with him very closely. So I like his sound as well. So let me give a little bit more detail, and I'll jump into the actual details of this story for me. Let me see. Ooh, Kelly Dixon was one of the editors. I believe that's one of the same creators and editors on Better Call Saul. I listened to one of her podcasts. Really like her work. I believe she also worked on Obi-Wan as well, the show. So, anyways, it was released November 11th, 2022 in the United States, a running time of 161 minutes. We are just shy of about 3 hours. It's a pretty chunky movie. Budget of $250 million, and so far it has made a box office of $545.5 million. So I think it needs to make a box office of probably like 600 to 800 to really make its money back, if you need to make triple it. So, ideas for the sequel began after the release of The Black Panther in this February 2018. Coogler negotiated to return as director in the following months, and Marvel Studios officially confirmed the sequel development in mid-2019. Plans for the film changed in August 2020 when Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman died from colon cancer, with Marvel choosing not to recast his role of T'Challa. Other cast members from the first film were confirmed to return by that November, and the title was announced in May 2021. Production initially took place from late June to early November 2021 in Atlanta and Brunswick, Georgia, as well as around Massachusetts, before a hiatus to allow Shuri, the character who plays Shuri, Letitia Wright, to recover from an initial injury sustained during filming. Production resumed by mid-2022 and wrapped in late March in Puerto Rico. Wow, so they just now finished this movie. This has been a hell of a production for this movie, if you think about how much of a task that Ryan Coogler had to kind of overcome, and just the waves that he had to navigate the ship of the Wakanda Forever movie on. I do not envy this job. I got to say that I know that the majority of this was kind of a tribute to his friend Chadwick Boseman, and you can absolutely feel it in the scenes that they are focusing on him as well. So, Black Panther Wakanda Forever premiered at the El Capitan Theater and the Dolby Theater in Hollywood on October 26, 2022, and was released in the United States on November 11, 2022. As the final film in Phase 4 of the MCU, the film received positive reviews from critics, with praise towards Coogler's direction, the action sequences, production, and costume design. The cast performances, particularly those of Wright, Guerrero, Horeta, and Bassett, the emotional weight, musical score, and his tributes to Boseman, although the runtime and plot received some criticism. And like I said earlier, the film has grossed over $545 million worldwide, becoming the 8th highest grossing film of 2022, and probably will continue to gross a fair amount of money over the course of the holiday season. I do find it... It hit that sweet spot of not hitting like Halloween time. I know it's a super sticky situation, and you don't want to be crass towards someone that has passed. And the interesting thing about this movie is it is so much of what happens in the movie is reflected in what happened in real life. It feels like when we're watching this movie and experiencing it and seeing the characters, they are upset on screen at the loss of the character on screen, but us as the audience are connecting with it on a whole nother level of the actual actor is gone as well. So, for people that are, listening to the Wakanda Forever podcast 10 years down the road, it's an extremely touchy subject. It might be hindsight 2020. It's like, oh, this is definitely how you should have done it. But I don't really know if there was a right or wrong way to do it. It's not 100%. I'm trying to think of an example of where this has probably happened. I know that the Bruce Lee's son was shot. I haven't seen The Crow, so I haven't seen how they tackle that in the film. But it's kind of rare for that to happen, for such a main integral part of the player to be, to be so much part of the story that they show, and for the characters on screen to kind of represent how us as the audience are working through it and grieving through the process as well. So I know that's kind of a long-winded way of saying, this movie is very much about grieving, and it is the loss of the character of the Black Panther character, T'Challa, but it's also about the loss of the great Chadwick Boseman, and not exactly the work he contributed, but there is kind of, salutes to his work within the MCU. But I think that, when they're talking about how great of a character T'Challa was, or how much they looked up to him, I always feel like they were kind of talking about Chadwick as well. And so there's kind of like that. It's double-edged sword's the wrong metaphor for it, but it's kind of like that double sector of the double meaning in there. And so, yeah, I was very moved at the beginning of this movie. I got to say that the beginning had me kind of choked up almost immediately. I'm not going to talk spoilers quite yet, but I just kind of wanted to prepare everybody that, they are dealing with the loss of this actor and the character as well. So, like all the stuff, like everything I had previously said, that the other critics had been talking about and discussing, I mostly agree with them. I think it's a pretty good movie. It's not, I don't want to say it touches levels of greatness like the first one did, but this is just me personally. Trying to think. I've heard a handful of podcasters and movie review critics and, sites kind of say Wakanda Forever is clearly the superior movie in comparison to the first one. And I just don't know if I 100% agree with that with my personal taste. Like I can totally see that this is it's super ambitious. It's having to work with so much going forward, and having to leave so much of the integral past behind, as in Chadwick Boseman. That was he was the driving force of the first movie. So it's like, imagine having the driving force. Imagine having, the race car, the best race car you can have. It's already won the first race. Black Panther first movie was amazing. Chadwick is the engine, and now you're going for the second race, and then right before as you're getting ready for it, you get your main engine, the thrust, the Chadwick, removed out. And so we're left with, I don't want to say a hollow shell of the Black Panther movie, because that sounds really like they aren't putting something meaningful in this movie, and that's not what I'm saying at all. I think that the scenes that have Angela Bassett and Shuri, talking and understanding and kind of grieving and mourning and going through the motions and emotions of what, real life, how we're feeling, they're remarkable. I think the moments of drama in this are some of the best scenes that you'll have in a Black Panther, in a Marvel movie, in any Disney movie at some point. I remember feeling, I was very moved at the first Black Panther, just about, spoilers obviously for the first Black Panther, but, he loses his father in that, and he's grieving over his father and becoming the Black Panther. It's just a very moving movie of kind of I'm trying to think of what the best words are. I'm saying a lot, but it's what I'm trying to get at is both movies are moving for very different reasons, even though they both have to deal with a tremendous amount of loss on different levels. The first one was obviously, quote unquote, a loss in the story. The second one is a loss in real life and in the story. So it's like the double whammy with it. So my quick review of Black Panther before we go into spoilers. Wakanda Forever is a highly ambitious and delicate balance of a sequel to the Black Panther movie starring Chadwick Boseman. Since then, we have unfortunately lost Boseman due to colon cancer. His presence was so warm and welcoming in the movie and on and off screen that it makes the second movie that much more difficult to sit with. And not sit with in a bad way, but it's the grieving part of it that is very difficult to kind of sit with. If you're going to the movie to try to enjoy yourself, to try to escapism, experience some escapism, this is not the movie for that. This is the one you're going to kind of get the emotional wallop of a punch to the gut, the gut punch. But with saying that, there is still this balance of drama, action, and sprinkled in comedy here and there. I do got to say that this movie does feel slightly overstuffed. So before we get into the cons and everything and then the spoilers, let me talk about the pros and things that I loved about this movie. What I loved about this movie, I don't think I've heard anyone before we get into the pros and cons, I got to say that every single critic I've heard almost seems to have a very similar take on the movie. Almost everyone seems to say Angela Bassett, amazing. Almost everyone says the CGI is hand over fist better than the first one. Music, amazing. The tributes to Chadwick, pretty damn good. If not moving to, a tear-jerking point. But the set design, costume design, the women of Wakanda, the action, all of that, I think most people would agree and the Namor of it all, the antagonist, most of that works, including the design. Now, some of it doesn't go into super detail about some of these things. Like some people, I've heard that they say that the world of Namor, the antagonist in this movie is, it's not thoroughly explained enough, and I could probably agree with that. The thing with watching this movie, and I was kind of feeling it around the halfway point, when the initial, I don't know, driving point of what happens in this movie is kicked off. What was I saying? Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I'll go back to it. Anyways, the cons with the movie. For me, personally, it felt a little bit overstuffed. There's certain characters in this that are... now I remember. So, the overstuffedness of this movie. This is almost a 3-hour movie, and it easily feels like it could probably be 3.5, 4 hours. One thing I did hear from some people that were like... Oh my! The biggest division I've heard for this movie is either you felt the runtime or you didn't feel the runtime. For me personally, I felt the runtime hand over fist around 2 hours in. I was like, I can feel scenes that are being rushed and other scenes that are being slowed down. It kind of felt like somebody was playing with the manual shift driver. So sometimes we were in first gear, sometimes we were in fourth gear, and my biggest issue with this movie was the pacing. Sometimes it would hit a stride, and I was like, "Oh, I'm loving this," and then all of a sudden, it kind of was like, "All right, let's nestle down, and we're gonna just kind of talk really, softly in a not kind of a dimly lit place or underwater or whatever." I just thought that those scenes were played better in the original movie. Now, the other things that I wasn't too crazy about, like I said, it's a little bit overstuffed. There's characters that feel like they are put in there for future films. Now, this is one kind of pet peeve that I got to talk about. a lot of people gave Black Adam a lot of shit for saying that he should have been introduced in a different movie, or I heard this was a big complaint I heard from a lot of people, was that he should have been introduced in another movie. And then when they do that, people say, oh, well, they should have saved him for his own movie. It's like, I really don't see a consistent reading on why people would say that he needs to have an unknown character needs to have their own movie versus not have their own movie. There are characters in Wakanda Forever that I'll explain in the spoiler section about why those probably deserve to be either the scenes needed to be relegated shortcut or something, or because there was an extra 15 minutes, it felt like, in this movie that were kind of just lollygagging and introducing things that have nothing to do with this movie until really next time, or very little to do with this movie, or could have been rewritten to not be in this movie. The ending. I think one of my biggest pet peeves with this movie was the predictability of the ending. I felt like almost about 40 minutes in this movie, I could kind of determine where this movie was going. I was like, this antagonist, I'm just going to say, this is not a spoiler. This was just my thought of watching this. For the first scene that I see the antagonist, I'm like, this guy is too cool to kill. And I was almost guaranteed, I was like, they are not going to do the same thing they did with Killmonger. Now, I'm not going to tell you what they do with this, the antagonist, or what happens to him, whether he lives or whether he doesn't. But when I first saw him, I was like, okay, Coogler is shooting this guy in such a manner that I feel like they don't want to kill him. Or if it's one of those things like, they'll beat him to the point of submission of, either you done or you join the hashtag Marvel family, like something like that. That was my initial thought, seeing almost 10 seconds of him. Now I'll let you go see the movie and determine whether or not you have that same feeling, or as I did. Let me see. So similar plotting to the first. Very similar plotting to the first. Like I said earlier, pacing was back and forth. And, during the course of the movie, we were essentially reminiscing about Boseman for the first half of the movie, I'd say, and then throughout specs of the second half. I was very moved at the beginning of the movie, including and especially the Marvel logo, which is, I won't say too much about it, but I was basically, it felt like eating an apple whole. I was just like in tears, big sob and blob. There is a stinger. Kind of mixed opinion about the stinger. I'm kind of like, okay. Didn't really have to have it, but, it'll work. And it's kind of expected just from a, logistical standpoint. All right, let me go get a little bit of coffee, and we'll begin the spoiler section. Sorry if that first half was a little bit rambly. I normally have my thoughts a little bit more cohesive and together. My laptop right now is being taken up by uploading photos. I took over like 3,000 plus photos over the weekend for 2 different events, and so I'm trying to process them at the moment. So just bear with me in my bumbling ass. No, like my ass isn't. Just forget that. Let's continue on to spoilers. Oh, I wanted to go ahead and give this out of 10. So there's scenes in this movie I think that are more superior from acting and directing wise, and a little bit more confident than the first movie, with regards to like the Angela Bassett, some of the side characters, the co-stars. Winston Duke's always a pleasure, but didn't get a whole lot to do. Same thing with a lot of the best players didn't get a whole lot to do for me. Lupita Nyong'o could have been in there a little bit more. Would have loved to see her perspective a little bit more. I won't tell you whose perspective we're with until we get into the spoiler section. Little bit of Joe. Oh, about choked. Okay, so what do we have? Okay, so my initial thought was this movie was slightly superior for the majority of it until the very end of how it became a little bit more predictable. Originally, I had it 7 out of 10. I bumped it up to 8 out of 10, and I'm going to kind of keep it at 8 out of 10. It's one of the most contentious ratings I can really think of out of the top of my head, because I know this is going to piss a lot of people off, but I got to say, as a cohesive film, now I guess it depends on how you rate movies. I personally rate movies as an entire overarching feel of the movie. Like, if the beginning, middle, and end all generally are heading in a positive direction, then I normally give it a positive review, or, something 7, 8, whatever. And then if it's not so much of a good, or if it just ends really good and it's not, the majority of the movie's not great, I don't think that constitutes having a higher grading. So the majority of Wakanda Forever, I think I appreciated and liked it more than the first one, until the ending, where I thought the first one was more superior than than Wakanda Forever. So yeah, I did give it 8 out of 10, although I was kind of leaning towards more 7 out of 10. But was saying that I was comparing this to Black Adam. Now, with saying that, I don't think the CGI, I don't think the acting, I don't think the directing, I don't think the story, I don't think any of that is more superior than the Wakanda Forever movie. But as a cohesive film, I felt like Black Adam was more on its own level than Wakanda Forever. Wakanda Forever felt a little bit messy in some places with regards of, we're going to start talking spoilers now, the new characters like Martin Freeman and Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Ironheart that are introduced into this movie, versus the like Black Adam characters, where I didn't feel like there were these narrative plot threads that were kind of just lingering. If Wakanda Forever had held a 2 hour and 30-minute runtime, I think it probably would have been a little bit better. I also was not very emotionally connected with Shuri. There's a ton of time from the perspective and with the perspective of Shuri, and there is a time when halfway through the movie, I'm just going to kind of spoil it. I'm talking a little bit out of order, but when she is kidnapped in the middle, or so-and-so, quote-unquote, kidnapped, I felt like the narrative structure of the movie kind of shifted again. I kind of felt like I could feel the writers in the writer's room being like, all right, we need to go somewhere else now. Now we need to go over here. Now we got to... I felt the pull and push of what was going on in the writer's room. So that's just my quibbles with the movie. And it's nothing super major, but those pacing problems really did affect my enjoyment of the overarching movie. I wouldn't have cared as much if we weren't hanging for 20 minutes in a cave about giving flashbacks of Namor explaining, colonialism or colonization and all that stuff. It was very tell instead of show. We were told and shown at the same time of his backstory, how his entire who he is, what his deal is. But I almost felt like it was like, all right, let's change go to the next episode, and it's the Namor, 40 minutes of Namor or something like that. I kind of agree with the people that say that Wakanda Forever would have been better served as a 6-episode series, because it really feels like we need to live with each one of these characters. Lupita Nyong'o, Shuri, Angela Bassett, all these different characters to kind of, and Winston Duke maybe, all the different characters and perspectives, and the Wakandans, how everyone is really focused and reminiscing about T'Challa's death. My thing is, the movie runs too long, but we don't have enough time for all of these characters. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword of, we have all this greatness, but we don't have enough time to show all this greatness. Here's the plot. T'Challa, king of Wakanda, is dying from an illness which his sister Shuri believes can be cured by a heart-shaped herb. Shuri attempts to synthetically recreate the herb after it was destroyed by their cousin Ninjaka, but fails to do so before T'Challa succumbs. One year later, Wakanda is under pressure. Well, let me just talk about that real quick. The opening is the death to Chala. It is a very moving scene, seeing Shuri, seeing Angela Bassett, seeing everybody kind of just come to the realization that he's gone, and then there's the celebration that happens, and then the celebration is beautiful. It is the music. I love the music in this. It doesn't feel like superhero-esque. It feels way more African based. It feels way more nuanced, I'd say. And yes, I did cry during the Marvel logo. Unabashedly, it got me good, and in the heart. 1 year later, Wakanda is under pressure from other nations to share their vibranium, with some parties attempting to steal it by force. Queen Ramonda implores Shuri to continue her research on the heart-shaped herb, hoping to create a new Black Panther that will defend Wakanda, but she refuses to do her belief. But she refuses due to her belief that the Black Panther is a figure of the past. And I'm not sure if that is really pushed through as a narrative plot thread for Shuri's character. She's struggling as a leader or even as someone that has just lost someone close to them, and she's having to be put upon as the leader, as some sort of leader again. I'm not sure if this movie does an excellent job or a structural job about understanding the structure of the hierarchy of the Black Panther, of Wakanda, I guess. I guess I thought everything would revert back to Angela Bassett's character. But and I guess it sort of did, but I wasn't really sure how that puts pressure on Shuri yet, I guess. I just felt like it wasn't 100% explained. Maybe I need to go back and see that. I do got to say the Dora Milaje, I believe they're called, with Denai Guerrera. Holy shit. Denai Guerrera is amazing. Oh my gosh. She is, and all the rest of the badass warriors. But I thought this movie could have followed them for 40 minutes, and I'd been way more interested. Or Denai Guerrera getting exiled by Angela Bassett. I was like, we're going to follow her. She's going to come back, going to be badass. I was like, it's going to be sick. And I was like, that didn't happen at all. So, got to say, the Dora Milaje, fucking everybody up. I was like, all right, you ain't getting our vibranium. Not up in here. So, Shuri believes Black Panther is a figure of the past. In the Atlantic Ocean, the CIA and U.S. Navy SEALs utilize a vibranium detecting machine to locate a potential vibranium deposit underwater. The expedition is attacked and killed by a group of blue-skinned, water-breathing superhumans led by the Avatar people. No, I'm just messing. Namor. With the CIA believing Wakanda to be responsible because they use vibranium weapons. And I love Angela Bassett's speech to, I think it's the UN. It is just, she rolls that tongue. I'm not even going to attempt to even repeat anything she said, because let me just destroy everything she just said. It was beautiful. It was in the trailer and I had heard it, but when you see it performed, you're like, holy shit, just give her the Oscar now. If it's possible, I think she's going to get it for this. Honestly, I think everyone agrees. It's crazy because this movie is really not that polarizing from what I could tell on the standpoint of critics and the standard audience just watching it. Most people agree that Angela Bassett would have been much more of an interesting character to kind of put into the Black Panther suit, or kind of put into the Black Panther T'Challa King role. I mean, she is the queen, but just to put in the perspective for her, as opposed to the Shuri character, who feels a little bit less developed and a little bit less It's not. I think a lot of people want to put it at the feet of Letitia Wright. I'm putting all of her political beliefs and whatever beliefs to the side for this review, so I'm not going to talk about that. But I think her as an actress, and I've seen her in multiple things, even as early as the early podcast we were listening to, Humans, where she had to kind of act like a robot or something like that. I've always thought that she was a very magnetic character to watch, and I felt like this movie did not serve that side of her as well. Her playing sad is very hard to kind of attach ourselves with, for me personally. So yeah, they blaming Wakanda for the CIA believing Wakanda to be responsible. Namor confronts Ramonda and Shuri, easily bypassing Wakanda's advanced security. Blaming Wakanda for the vibranium race, he gives them an ultimatum: deliver him, the scientist responsible for the vibranium detecting machine, or he will attack Wakanda. So this is how they are kind of bringing in the Ironheart subplot, I guess. And essentially it's a young, black, bright college student that has created some sort of vibranium finding machine. And that's kind of like, for me, that's rushed over very quickly. And what does it matter if he has the scientists who found it if they've already found it? You know, that was my biggest thing. I was like, that doesn't really make much sense to me. Why would you even care if the scientist is still alive or not if they have the machine? So Shuri and Okie learned from the CIA agent. Oh, let me talk a little bit about Namor. I haven't really talked about the actor that played it, I don't think. Is he Michael Cole? No, that's Michelle. I have no idea what the guy's name is that plays Namor. Mabel? Is that him? I think that it might be Mabel Cadena, maybe. I'm not sure. I don't have any pictures of these people, so I can't see. Anyways, I gotta say, Namor, pretty good character. I know, ladies, a lot of ladies might like him. Some dudes might find him, a little handsome as well. Where the fuck is this guy? Oh, no, his name is Tenoch Huerta. Sorry, I can't find anyone's fucking faces or names or any of this shit. Yeah, okay, so Namora. Okay, Namora is Mabel Cadena. Okay, so Tenoch Huerta plays Namor. He's got screen presence and he's got confidence, unlike a lot of other not so interesting bad guys have been in other or antagonists have been in other movies. I enjoyed his performance. I didn't mind his little wing feet things going on. Apparently that's, he's got the wings on his feet so he can fly all over the place, and he's got these whales like yeeting him up in the middle of the air, giving him like air time and, cowabunga, rocket power type shit. I was like, this is some bold stuff, we're starting to get in just wild territory, Atlantis, Aquaman type shit, I was really getting heavy Aquaman vibes, obviously, just because he's in water and whatnot. But I was surprised at still how they were able to kind of differentiate themselves from the other, from something like the brand of Aquaman. So I enjoyed Namor's look. I heard that someone had to go through and basically cover up his bulge in his pants. So imagine being the editor that had to go through scene by scene to make sure he's not bulging. Oh goodness, some people will probably actually not do it for free. Oh, fucking crazy. All right, so Shurian Okie, who's Denai Guerrero's character, learned from the CIA agent Everett K. Ross that the scientist in question is MIT student Riri Williams, and they didn't even need Martin Short for this. Let me see. The group is pursued by the FBI and then by Namor's warriors, who defeat Okie by taking Shuri and Williams underwater to meet Namor. And I gotta say, the fight is badass. And I do love the little report that Shuri and Okie have when they're taking Riri. They're like, either you come with us or you're gonna be, shit out of luck. So, and what's it? Riri's over there calling Okie's head ashy, just walking around with all that ash on your head. I was like, ooh, like everybody in the theater is like, ooh. So there's splashes of comedy, and I guess that's like specific comedy that would be, relegated in the black community. How people are always calling people ashy and whatnot. I thought that was hilarious. But I wasn't crazy about Riri's. Actually, was it Ironheart and Okie's look? I don't know what the two suits were called. I kind of forgot, but I thought they looked like some Power Rangers shit. That was one thing I couldn't talk about in the beginning of this thing, of the review. What else do we have? The group is pursued by the FBI and then the Namor's warriors who fight. The fight's pretty cool, not gonna lie. The fighting looks a little bit better. And then taken underwater to meet Namor, and Shuri kind of goes willingly. I mean, she's like, "I'll go with you if you don't hurt them," kind of thing. Angered by the failure of Okie to protect Shuri, Ramonda strips her of her title as the general of Dora Milaje, the head of it, and seeks out Nakia, who has been living in Haiti since Thanos' attack on Wakanda. And I know I didn't say Haiti right. I know they're saying it politically correct or whatever, but forgive me and my American ass. Namor shows Shuri. Oh, I do got to talk about the detail they have with the language. I know that there's a language that Namor is speaking the entire time. I think it's a combination of like Mayan and some sort of Latin, I believe. I don't have it in front of me, so I couldn't tell you specifically. But apparently they did a lot of research on how to do the specific dialects, and the language is very specific to where they are located, and correct from what I've heard. Namor shows Shuri his vibranium-rich underwater kingdom, Tolakan, which he has protected for centuries from the discovery by the world, bitter at the surface world for enslaving the Maya. Namor proposes an alliance with Wakanda against the rest of the world, but threatens to destroy Wakanda first if they refuse. Nakia helps Shuri and Williams escape, and Namor retaliates with an attack against Wakanda. It is kind of... It's like they're not even... It's kind of like a misunderstanding kind of thing. It's like they are just trying to get them out so that they aren't captured, even though Shuri and What's-Her-Face aren't really that captured. So it just kind of as an escalation of war, and Shuri specifically mentions that when Namora is, I think, stabbed or hit with a dagger or something like that when they're being saved. She's like, this is going to be an act of war, and the fighting of that is really badass. The problem for me that comes around here is, so Namor retaliates with an attack against Wakanda, during which Ramonda drowns, saving Williams. The thing is, we don't know Williams. We don't know Riri Williams and why we don't really care about her emotionally enough for us to lose a character as big as Angela Bassett's character, T'Challa's mother. Now, what this probably tells me is that this was already written in the script, but having to deal with two family members of the T'Challa, his mother, his father, all of them, and him passing in two movies, it is a big, heavy ask for the audience to just kind of yada yada that. And I don't feel like they necessarily have enough time to deal with the repercussions of all these deaths. Namor vows to return in a week with his full army and the citizens of Wakanda relocate the Jabari Mountains for their safety. Meanwhile, Ross is arrested by his ex-wife and CIA director, Valentina Allegra Delafon. for secretly exchanging classified intelligence with the Wakandans. After the funeral of... Dude, feels like it goes on for a minute. After the funeral of Ramonda, Shuri uses a remnant of the herb that gave Namor's people their superhuman abilities to construct the heart-shaped herb. She ingests it. Seems like it's kind of easy too, honestly. I'm not really sure how everyone thought about that. It's the MacGuffin. Gaining superhuman abilities and meeting Najaka in the ancestral plane, who urges her to seek revenge. And so this is another kind of issue I thought I had with the movie a little bit, was that it felt like Shuri was running through the motions of grief, and everyone grieves differently. Let's just say that off the top. But it felt like Shuri was coming at it with a level of revenge, becoming the Black Panther and level of revenge, and she's using more of the Ninjaka or the Michael B. Jordan essence behind her motivations of why she's doing things, as opposed to really for a good heartfelt reason. And of course it kind of reverts back to the good side at the end, but it's not after a whole lot has gone down. So Shuri, it was good to see Michael B. Jordan in it too. Shuri dons a new Black Panther suit and is accepted by the other Wakandan tribes as the Black Panther. Despite M'Baku's urges for peace, Shuri is determined to exact vengeance on Namor for Ramonda's death and orders an immediate counterattack on Tolakan. Preparing for battle with Ayo, assuming the position of General of Dora Milaje, Shuri bestows the Midnight Angel armor upon Okie. Okay, so that's what it was called. And I thought it was a little bit, I don't know what the hell that look was. The masks are what look weird for me. The coloration is a little bit bright, and then the masks look like some Power Rangers. So who, in her turn, and she like shits on the mask too. She said it looks goofy, I think. So who in turn recruits Dora Milaje member Anake to join her. Williams creates an Iron Man-esque powered exoskeleton to aid the Wakandans. He built it in a cave, or whatever the fuck he said. What did the dude say? Okay, so let's just finish this. Using a seafaring vessel, the Wakandans lure Namor and his warriors to the surface as battle ensues. Shuri traps Namor in a fighter's aircraft, intending to dry him out and weaken him, which I thought he got in there pretty easily. I was like, Jesus. I was like, you didn't see this coming, man? The pair crashes into a desert beach and fight. Shuri gains the upper hand, but realizes the similarities between their pasts and implores Namor to yield. Offering him a peaceful alliance, Namor accepts and the battle ends. It's like everyone's just like, oh, they stopped fighting. Everything's okay. Everyone just come on, man. Let's come on, have a party. Let's get some pizza, get turned out. It's like, y'all nearly killed yourselves. And then he's like, all right, I'll uncle. It's like, oh my gosh, really? So Namor's cousin Namora is upset at Namor's surrender. I would be too, but Namor assures her that their new alliance will assure them to conquer the surface world one day. So he's still kind of like, this is all part of the master plan. He might still be kind of evil, but that'll be probably determined in his own movie. So Williams returns to MIT, leaving her suit behind. Okie rescues Ross from captivity. Was he? I didn't even realize he was in captivity. Shuri plants more heart-shaped herbs to ensure the future of the Black Panther mantle. In Shuri's absence, M'Baku steps forward to challenge for the throne. Shuri visits Nakia in Haiti, where she burns her funeral ceremonial robe in accordance with Ramonda's wishes, Angela Bassett, allowing herself to finally grieve T'Challa. In a mid-credit scene, Shuri learns that Nakia and T'Challa have had a son named Toussaint. who Nakia has been raising in secret, far from the pressure of the throne. Toussaint reveals his Wakandan name is T'Challa. And that, my friends, is Black Panther Wakanda Forever 2022. Let me know what you thought about Black Panther Wakanda Forever, the review, the movie, everything in between. And yeah, I think that was a pretty solid review on our part. If I do pat myself on the own back, I got to say that everybody that created the movie did an excellent job, despite some of my critiques on it. I think that it's still a very powerful and moving movie, and I can't wait to watch it on the screen back at home and kind of get to live in the world again. I wonder if we're going to get more Namor. I'm sure more people are kind of interested to probably see that world a little bit more. What's going to happen with the son, the new T'Challa, the new Black Panther? Is Shuri going to continue to stay as the Black Panther? Are we going to get multiple Black Panthers like a lot of people thought we were predicting in this movie? Kind of like other movies that we had got multiple types of superhero people. Won't spoil that, but yeah. Let me know what you thought about this movie. Again, I gave it a 8 out of 10. A little bit divisive for me myself, but it was still very enjoyable overall. So thank you for listening, watching LuckyDog Podcast. Take it easy.